Hello, my name is Jenny from Starseed Academy. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And a little bit about me, I am a master channeler, psychic baddie. I love to teach people how to use their gifts. That's what I'm really known for. My signature program is Psychic Light. I'm teaching people how to speak the language of the clairs, use their incredible channel, and teach them how to do clean and ethical channeling, which is my own personal framework for the most accurate and detailed channeling that you can do. And I'm also a business mentor for spiritual business owners, online business owners, to take them from running a spiritual business into building their soul empire. Very different energy and very different feeling in that. You're not just running a business, you are the CEO of your soul empire, and you have a clear cut, solid path to your millions. And we all deserve to be living, a lifestyle of our highest timeline where all of the joy and the good and the abundance and wealth and health and love exists. So I love helping people to align to that. Today, we're going to be talking about the Starseed Mission. And I want to also be talking about soul gifts with you because it is a part of the Starseed Mission. So here are some of the things that we're going to cover today. So what is a starseed, right? Let's start with that. We're going to talk about the call, because if you're here on Earth at this time and you consider yourself on an awakening path, you volunteered to be here. You received the call, the call for help, and you answered. We're also going to be talking about soul contracts, soul gifts, the discovery and the expression of your soul gifts. How can you discover and then use those gifts to express yourself? We're going to be talking, I've got some really fun examples of soul gifts for you. Really, I had to limit myself. I had so many that I wanted to share, but I'm going to share 3 really good ones with you of how people found their soul gifts, what it felt like, and what they were able to do with it. Really powerful stuff. And then I want to talk with you about how you can activate your soul gifts, how you can evolve them, because they're not just one, you don't just discover them and it's done. They continue to evolve and deepen, and even new ones will come online as well. And then we'll finish up with talking again about the mission. And I have 5 steps for you, 5 super simple, clear steps that if you take, you will be on your soul mission, you will be doing your soul work, and it's also the instructions to your highest timeline. So you're giving and you're receiving. So it's beautiful. Okay, so let's jump in with the first subheading here, which is what is a starseed? So I want to say that I want to talk about what an awakened starseed is. And the reason why is because there's a difference between someone that is going through their spiritual awakening, is already at that point, what that looks like, okay? Versus someone that's maybe still really plugged in to some people call it 3D. I like to call it autopilot. You're just on autopilot. You're not really experiencing a whole lot of self-awareness yet. That's just kind of a whole different story. So an awakened starseed is a soul that knows that they have had lifetimes off-world. And that might look like having memories of these lifetimes, dreams of these lifetimes. You could have had a past life regression or an Akashic reading and had some information come through that just hit so hard, and you know that it's true, but you also might be having memories or dreams of that version of you, seeing yourself in this particular version that maybe isn't even human, maybe is this galactic or cosmic being or an elemental being or something fantastic like that, etheric being. And so these star seeds that are awakened, from a very deep place within, they know that Earth is not their home. Okay, home. Okay, we'll use quotations around that. And they just don't feel like the people around them either. Sometimes even your own family members, you might feel adopted. You just might feel so different, but certainly from the collective of humanity, you're kind of just shaking your head what are these people doing? You just might feel so different. So you're feeling like Earth is not your real true home. And you've got the sneaky suspicion about that. You're feeling like you don't resonate with humanity or maybe the people around you in your own life or both. And you're also a very deep thinker, and you question a lot how things are done. You're questioning things like the 9 to 5, which I know that the 9 to 5 is programming. Okay. We get this programming, this 3D programming instilled in us at such a young age through our parents and then really deeply in the school systems about how we're supposed to, get our education and then find a really good job that's 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And then success means just staying in that job for 40 years or something like that. And I truly believe that that is programming to really stop people from truly finding themselves, having the time or the energy after a 9 to 5 to like, discover your soul gifts and really find yourself and go through an awakening and develop hobbies and figure out what you're even passionate about. Those are two things that don't really go together, do they? You're too tired and you're too exhausted. So anyway, you start to question those kinds of things. Like, wait a minute, who decided that from Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, I was this, slave? And also, who decided that school was all about competition? And why are there, so many taxes? And why are the politics run like this? And why are there so many, lines separating our humanity in these little countries or states or provinces? And it's just like we really question things very deeply, so deeply that you might even be questioning things like, what is the point of the universe? Like, how do I fit in? Where do I come in? What is the point of me? Who am I? What's the purpose? What's my purpose? And that really brings me to that you have this intensely strong kind of like, it's almost like a feeling of like a push from within, that you have a greater purpose for your life. And it's greater than just coming here and playing along. Like, that you have a mission, but you can't necessarily always remember what the mission is. And that can actually cause a lot of anxiety because you have this like intense feeling, and it usually pushes outwards from your solar plexus or maybe the heart chakra. But in those areas, it's this pushing feeling of like, oh my God, I'm here to do something. I know I have a purpose. I know I have a mission. What is it? Like, why am I here? What are we doing? Like, why? And it can create like, quite a bit of anxiety trying to figure that out. And so because of that, you might try to like push it away, get away from it a little bit, but it will always rise back to the surface because you could feel that and then push it away and kind of get lost in the autopilot 9 to 5 for another 2 years. And then you'll find it just keeps coming up, that feeling, right? Because it's your purpose for being here on earth. It's not going to go away. So let's talk about the call, because if you are an awakened soul on earth at this time, you actually volunteered to be here, which, some people have a hard time accepting that. But the truth is that, it's a very big time on the earth. And it would be way too coincidental for you to be on an awakening path on earth at this time when the majority of humanity is not on an awakening path and not have volunteered to be part of the larger mission, that ground crew mission of why we're here together. Okay. So Gaia is on an upswing right now of her procession cycle. So we could actually just call the awakening path, if you wanted to back things up with science, because a lot of people like that logical, less woo-woo, more logic, more science. The scientific aspect of an awakening journey is actually called a procession cycle. And it's a real thing that our planet goes through every 24,000 years. And it's not actually just Earth, it's our whole solar system, our sun and everything actually rotates around a star in the Pleiades called Alcyone. And Alcyone has a photon belt of light around it. And so as we are called back into that every 24,000 years roughly, and we start to enter into the photon belt of light, what happens is we experience these like new age golden eras on Earth. And you might have heard of some of them, like Lemuria, Avalon. And there's real like scientific evidence of this, and we can look into that, right? But if you looked at a cycle of Gaia, if we just looked at Earth, the planet Earth, she goes through in a circle, a cyclical pattern of being in a golden era and then dropping down into dark ages and then rising back up into another golden era where there's a lot of like harmony on the planet and unity consciousness, but there's also a lot of technological advances and we've come a really long way. And then something happens and we lose that and then we go back down again. And the reason why is because Gaia is a school. She's not meant to stay up here and she's not meant to stay down here. She will just keep trucking around that circle. She's on a path that can't be stopped. And so the golden era is burgeoning for us right now. That is the time that we're on Earth as we've moved into the beginnings of this photon belt of light. Some people feel like we started moving into it in 2012, and other people feel like it really happened around 2020, which there's a lot of there's a lot of signs that was when it happened. But regardless, we are moving into that, and it can't be stopped. So if you're seeing any kind of I always want to say that if you see any paranoia messages based in fear frequency around, if we don't do this, this, and this, we're not going to make it to 5D, or we're not going to make it to New Earth, or whatever terms they're using, it's honestly just not true, because it's not just us, it's our entire solar system is going into that photon belt of light. But the choices then are humanity can be dragged into it kicking and screaming, which is a more painful experience, or we can help, the volunteers can help ease humanity into that with a lot of our understandings, knowledge, deep wisdom, and our frequency. Okay, so basically, star seeds and awakened souls. Some people want to prefer the term light workers, star seeds. I feel like those are pretty similar things. But we have inside of us what I call the oneness frequency. And it's the foundation of Christ consciousness or unity consciousness, or some people call it 5D. Basically, they're all names for one state of being. And oneness is the key. That frequency of oneness is the key to the golden era, aka New Earth, aka 5D Earth. Again, these are all just terms pointing to the same thing. Yet many humans are fighting back against that oneness frequency. They want the separation. They want the us versus them. Anybody outside of my circle is other, right? And that separation energy really fuels the fear of anything outside of yourself, and fear frequency is the root of all lower energies. Even hate, if somebody's super angry and super hateful, and you were able to somehow sift through that and see the seed of where it started, it would still be a fear seed. So fear frequency is a very harmful energy, and it creates all of the lower energies on the scale, the things below neutral, like shame and guilt and depression and those kinds of energies. And if humans continue to cling to those lower energies of separation, it's going to make their evolution a forced and painful experience, because humanity is evolving into the divine human blueprint. It's happening because we're entering into the photon belt of light. Okay, so basically, our first step of the awakening is called the 5D ascension. And that's the evolution of your consciousness, right? When you start to move into the 6D ascension, it's the evolution of your physical form. And some people, you might have heard some people call this crystalline or crystalline bodies. And that's what they're talking about, okay? So we truly are going to evolve on a physical level, because we're moving into that photon belt of light and we're experiencing really different solar flares. So the solar flares have changed because our sun is also moving into that photon belt of light, and it's really changed the frequency to a much higher frequency and the quality of those solar flares and the strength of them. Again, if we want to back this up with science and be really logical, they've proven that solar flares are what creates evolution. Throughout history of humanity and animals and plants, they can see that solar flares hitting the earth changes the DNA in even plants and animals and the earth and us. And that is how evolution happens. So that is what's happening on the top, and what's happening underneath, because we're sandwiched in these ascension energies, you can't escape it. What's happening underneath is called the Schumann resonance, and the Schumann resonance is spiking a lot right now. So normally this is Gaia's heartbeat. She has her own heartbeat, and it can be measured, and it is measured. You can actually, thank you technology, get an app called Schumann resonance and keep your eye on it. And basically, like, if her normal resting rate is around between 7 and 8 hertz or amperes, then what's happening is that she's having these massive spikes as high as like 180. It was for a little bit, which is just crazy. So Gaia, is being, slammed by the solar flares as well, and she is evolving. So every planet has like a soul, like a conscious being, and I call her Gaia, Mother Earth, but each celestial body, I believe, has a consciousness to it, like a soul within. And so Gaia is also going through an awakening. So her vibes, her vibrational frequency is rising, her consciousness is coming online, and now, so she's gone through 5D with us, which is the evolution of consciousness, and now she is going through the 6D, which is the evolution of her physical form, right? And that the proof of that is in the Schumann resonance. So you can research, it's really fun to research the Schumann resonance. One of the most incredible things happened, was it last summer? Maybe, I think it was a last summer where we hit that 180 and we were there for 2 to 3 days. And the chart, the Schumann resonance chart, normally just looks like nothing and then little spikes. And instead, wildly, for no reason other than to prove everything that's happening, the image on the chart changed into this DNA helix for like 3 days. And everybody was just going crazy, like screenshotting and sharing it all over social media, myself included. It was just like, it felt like such proof. Yes, these are DNA activations that we are experiencing. Okay. So basically, that's what humanity is going through physically. And okay, so that is the evolution into the divine human blueprint. But remember when I said we can go in gently or we can go in kicking or screaming? What I mean by that is between here and the golden era, there's many timeline options. And we can choose a really hard one if people continue to cling to the lower energies of that separation energy, that fear frequency. It's going to be a lower, harder timeline, but we will get there because we're going to get there no matter what. Or the volunteers could help humanity choose a nicer timeline, a gentler timeline, one more filled with unity consciousness and love frequency. So those lower timelines that still end up in the golden era, think like chaos, energy, destruction of the old societal structures like the bank systems and the healthcare and the politics and all that, literally like crumbling, like rubble on the ground, apocalyptic kind of scenarios, maybe World War III style stuff. So that's not ideal, but it would get us there. But I would really like to help nudge humanity into a gentler timeline. And because change, it doesn't have to be that traumatic, like it really doesn't. And so here we are, these awakened souls on a dreaming planet and doing our best to be these shining examples of oneness, even though it's not easy a lot of the time, nudging humanity onto a gentler timeline where we remind them that they don't have a soul. They are a soul, that they are that eternal soul within, and that inside of that, within the soul, we're all the same, right? Because every soul is a piece of the greater source. You might call that God source, Father, Mother, God, God, Goddess, the universe, the Great Spirit. Again, a lot of terms pointing to the same thing, which is, essentially we'll call it God source to make it easy. So if like God source was the color gold, just for instance, then it's sparkling gold. Then at the center of each one of our little souls, which is like an orb of light, at the very center would be a little speck of that gold. Maybe not little, maybe a good core of that gold, because that's what we are. And then the layers on top of that, around that golden truth, like think of it, it's like pure life force, right? But around that are our lifetimes, right? You've lived many lifetimes, hundreds, maybe thousands of lifetimes, and each one of those becomes a layer on the soul of experiences and lessons and like great wisdom that comes with that. And that becomes your soul signature. right? All of the layers, what frequency does that make? That's your soul signature. And it's unique to you. And it has, you have your very own color and tone, like sound tone. You're just so unique. If you could take your soul outside of your body and look at it, it wouldn't be like anyone else's. It's completely unique. But, and that's beauty to be an individual. That's it, right? But the oneness idea, truth, is that we're all the same at the center. And that's really important for us to embrace as well. And I want to share just a quick diagram with you, because I think that it's a simplified, like, version of what I'm talking about, and I think that it could be really helpful. So let me share this little diagram. All right, so we have God source. This bubble here is God source, right? And again, what do you want to call that? Father, mother, God, God source. I call it Baba. That means grandmother or grandfather spirit. Here, below that, we start getting into the oversouls. Now, this is simplified. There's probably layers of oversouls, but let's be direct. So oversouls just below that. And then below that, in a smaller bubble, we start to get into our soul tribes, our soul families going across. And those are the people that you incarnate with over and over and over, your friends and family and romantic partners and frenemies and enemies and all the people that make a real impact, good and bad, is part of your soul tribe because you're all learning from one another. And then we come down even further, and that's you. You are a singular focal point of consciousness. Streamlined consciousness pours down like water into you. Okay. And then these bubbles going parallel are simultaneous versions of you because you're living more than one life simultaneously. You could look at those as like timelines and versions of you in your highest timeline and maybe a bit of a lower timeline in the one you're in now, etc. Okay. So if this was the ocean, because water is a good example, and it poured down into each bubble, that means that you have the consciousness and the gifts of God. You are God. You are here. This is you, and this is you, and this is you. And you are living simultaneously vertically as well as horizontally, which is a lot. Maybe that's a lot to take, right? But it's true. Also, another way that you could think of this was if this was the ocean and this was a tidal wave, big and powerful and has a lot of this in it. And then this is a smaller wave, okay, still made of this, but just a little smaller. And then you're a ripple, just a ripple on the water. And your lifetime is like a ripple because it has a beginning point where it starts, and then there's an end. And when the ripple comes to an end, the water smooths out and you kind of sink back into the ocean, right? So, and I just have written here funnel of God. It's basically just how the God consciousness makes its way to you, but you are all of it, right? And when I had my Kundalini awakening and I had like my crown chakra and consciousness just blown wide open to like the most incredible amount of awareness I've ever had. I remember looking around and being like, oh my God, like I am that. I am that tree and I am you and I am them and I am that animal and I am that. And everything that I looked at, I was like, I am that. Because it was like my consciousness shot up all the way to here. And then I felt like I was looking down at everything going, oh shit, like I am that and that and that. And like it was such a mind blowing experience, right? And those kinds of experiences of that wild, blown wide open consciousness, they can last an hour or they can last 3 days or whatever, a week. But eventually, you will settle back down and come back into this. And so it's really good for us to try to remember and almost intentionally zoom out our perspective to our truth. Okay. So I really hope that that helped understand, or just explain, and again, it's very simplified, but it is very helpful as well. And it really does explain oneness in such a beautiful way. And that what we're trying to remember and remind others of as well. Okay, so the spiritual awakening on this planet, It's happening in waves, okay? It can't all happen at once because that would be chaos, and there's not the support in place at all to support everyone awakening all at one time. So we have to like people chose what wave they would be in. We had the pioneers, and you could see this. You could see like there was a huge massive wave of awakening in the 60s, with the peace and love, and then again in the 70s, and maybe one in the late 80s. And it was kind of like further apart, but they're now getting closer and closer and closer together, and they're getting bigger as well. And what that means is, it results in more people needing support every year. Every wave of awakening, they really need you. They need you to step into your purpose. Okay, your mission, your Starseed mission for being here. They need the healers and the counselors and the coaches and the readers, the authors, like the podcast hosts, all of the new earth leaders. You're here to be a new earth leader and usher humanity into that paradigm, and we need you. And your soul gifts are activated by service. Okay. So when you step into your soul gifts and step into your mission, which we're going to talk about, that is how you activate your gifts in the first place, is by being of service. I had only an inkling, just a small idea of what I was even capable of until I started seeing clients. And your gifts will then start to evolve and get very like layered and expand and become so interesting, and then like new gifts will come online when you are aligned to that sacred mission. And everything has been divinely guided for you in your life to bring you to that version of you, that active. My ear just went when I said that. Ooh, we got some clairaudience coming on. Okay, what did I just say? Everything in your life has been divinely guiding you to that version of you, to that moment where you step into your gifts and you step onto your soul work and into your mission. And you really have to start understanding that everything's like divine orchestration and divine timing. And they come into your life and express themselves through soul nudges. When you're being nudged to do something, you have to understand and learn, what does a soul nudge feel like in your body? Because it might feel a little bit different for each person. Is it a ping in your gut, like a little oof, that was meant for me, or a flutter in the heart? Is it seeing like coincidences and signs? And how does your higher self and your guides nudge you? How does your soul nudge you to be on the right path? How do you get like nudged? So it's a feeling, and it's also like events that could be happening around you. And if you can navigate yourself by these nudges and by your intuition, you will arrive on your soul highest timeline, basically. So it should feel like, if you're aligned to that highest path, it should feel like swimming with the current, not against it. It should feel like you're swimming with the current, and you're seeing all the signs, the 1111, the 444. These three people all said the same thing to me today, like, what's going on? I saw three grasshoppers. What? And you're Googling what's spiritual meaning of a grasshopper. Oh my God, I'm about to have a quantum leap. Like, it's just that feeling, that feeling. It's like, I just heard that song 3 times today. What are the lyrics? Because there's something in there for me. Like, you're just, you will be drawn to, and you will be shown these nudges, and you have to be quiet in your mind to hear them and to understand that that's what's happening. And you have to be in the present moment, because if you live in your mind as, like, that's autopilot. We mentioned that before. Like 90% of people are living on autopilot. They're not even in the present moment. Well, that's where the signs are happening, is in the present moment. That's where you're being nudged. So your first step should then actually be like, figure out how you can be more present in your life, because that is going to help everything. You're going to get so much clarity just from that one action, right? So that's how you know when you're in the flow. So let's talk about soul contracts just quickly. I do want to cover this because it is important for you to understand that you have it's built into your soul contracts, this mission that we keep referring to. So before any incarnation, and that word just means lifetime, before any lifetime, a soul, excuse me, a soul will create a contract for what they agree to within that life. Okay, so in your soul contract, you've agreed to certain things happening in the lifetime that you're about to have. And it includes soul lessons, like deep soul lessons, like lessons that are so important that if you don't learn them in this life or in the last three, they're going to repeat themselves. You're going to see a lot of like similar situations and patterns. And when I do people's Akashic readings, I see this where I'm seeing a similar scenario, maybe in a relationship or with their financial stuff or with their health. It's like, oh, that happened to you before and it's happening now. You didn't get the lesson quite right. Right? You didn't quite get it. So if we can get it, you don't have to keep repeating this, and then we can move on. I know that one of my main lessons, soul lessons, is patience. We're not there yet, but we're working on it. Okay, so that's one thing that's inside of your soul contracts. The other thing is karmic clearing experiences, where you're going to set up for yourself experiences that will help you to clear karma. And that can be with other people or situations. And you're trying to clear up anything that was created in other lifetimes. You're also going to experience a lot of things with your soul family. And that usually is like a lot of role reversal kind of things. Like, well, if I was your mom and now you're my mom, or my lover is now my child, or whatever, it's like the people that are in your soul tribe and that bubble below the oversoul, you continue to incarnate together and learn from each other. You'll switch places a lot to help each other. So that's interesting as well. And then of course in those soul contracts is also an inner purpose and an outer purpose. Okay. So your outer purpose is how you are of service. And that's where these soul gifts come into play. So soul gifts are a part of you on a deep soul level. They're carried with you from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime, and they live on inside you at this very moment. They are cultivated and mastered in these other lifetimes, and they're encoded with your unique soul signature and your highest self frequency and your mission. These gifts are tools for you to use in your outer purpose, your earth mission, and they are your way of being of service to humanity or Gaia or maybe the animal kingdom or the nature kingdom. Some people are here for the animals, and you know that, like you can see it and you can tell and you would know. And other people are here to help others. And some people are here for a little bit of it all, which is really beautiful too. And these soul gifts, they start as like larger, broad archetypes, like, for example, the divine healer or the divine communicator or the divine activator. And then they funnel down into more specific gifts. So the most potent way that you can discover your soul gifts and for your soul gifts to come through to be expressed is it happens through learning the clairs, right? So these are French words. Clairvoyance means clear seeing, and that's your third eye. We also have clairaudience, which is clear hearing in the chakras just above your physical ears. You have two ear chakras, one on either side, and they're above your physical ears, and they're like a burgundy maroon color. We also have clairsentience, clear feeling. And a lot of people experience this in their palm chakras. They use them to scan or do healing or read things. But you can also experience clairsentience. It's a miracle one. You can experience it in your aura, in your face, in your hands, your heart, your solar plexus. Like you can feel energy in a lot of places in your body, basically. And then the last one is claircognizance, crown chakra, and that is clear knowing. And that's like the downloads, the deep knowing, the wisdom coming through. And it's also, if you can really learn how to speak these clairs, I find claircognizance to be the most powerful one, especially if you want to be a channeler. Okay. So if you can learn what I call the language of the clairs, because it truly is like learning a language, there's a lot to it. I don't think that people realize just how much there is to each clair. It's taught a little, it's very simplified in any kind of spiritual like course that I've seen or whatever. They don't really dive deeply into that. There's a lot to each one, and it's beautiful and it's so fun too. And so the language of the clairs can be expressed outwardly or inwardly. Okay. So if you're expressing the clairs in an outward direction, so it's going out, that means that something from within you gets to express itself going outwards. And so that would be things like soul gifts, soul memories, soul language, which is really beautiful. And also like the deep wisdom that you have from being an old soul and having so many lifetimes. They find their pathway out into the world through one or all of the clairs heading outwards. But you can also experience the language of the clairs in an inward direction where you're getting information and it's getting to you through following those pathways. So think like communication with spirit, channeling, reading, scanning energy. It has to go in and then it gets interpreted. Having visions, clairvoyant visions, they go in and then you interpret them, right? So it can be received inward as information and then interpreted through the clairs as well. So the clairs are just very, very powerful and are like the foundation and the key of all spiritual work, all psychic gifts, and your soul gifts. So I want to give you some really fun examples to kind of like anchor the idea of how people have discovered and then used their soul gifts. So the first one is I had a student whose soul gift was to scan palm chakras, right? Scan people's physical organs, right? It's kind of rare. You don't really hear of that a lot. And see where the distortion was within that. And then they were able to remove the harmful energy, retune the frequency back to its original harmony, because distortion in our energy just means we've lost our original harmony. We've gone off key. And that would help people to heal physical ailments and also catch things like cancer earlier on before it took over. And I said that she scanned energy with her hands, but I also feel like she was scanning with her face, interestingly enough, because when I would watch her do this, I would see this, but I would also see like her leaning forward with her face a lot. So again, you can use a lot of areas to scan with. And so when I taught her, like she didn't know that that was what her soul gift was. She came like, I'm not sure if I even have gifts when she came to me. So how we figured all this out was I taught her the language of the clairs and she started to feel energy through clairsentience, okay? Started to understand what different energies felt like, what organic and inorganic and healthy energy versus non-healthy, like feeling the difference between the two. And then she started to also see, which is clairvoyance, in her mind's eye, the distortions, the distorted energy became very clear as well. And then she started to even experience clairaudience, which is hearing in your mind's ear. And she was starting to hear messages from her clients' guides, like angels or even cosmic beings, um, coming through clairaudience, telling her how to help that client. Oh, place your hands here, or this is what you need to say to them, or ask them this, or look there, and fully guide her, through that session. So these clairs, these soul gifts, like can also give you a lot of confidence in the work that you do because you can be so guided by it. So that was the first example. So another student that I had, their gift was to be a breaker of ancestral chains and ancestral programming, right? To see the harmful programming, and the limiting patterns that have been handed down from generation to generation, to see where it lived in the body and how it was affecting that person's life and their happiness. And if you know anything about ancestral chains, wounds, trauma, it can be a lot of what's wrong in your life. Like, your money problems can be from poverty programming from your ancestors. And a lot of women carry things like witch wounds, which like makes you very hesitant to step into your gifts because of the fear of what will happen to you, like fear of being persecuted. There's a lot, like there's too many to even number of like what ancestors can hand down to us, good and bad. And so how she discovered this was again through the language of the clairs. She learned clairvoyance and she was very clairvoyant. She was able to clairvoyantly see where the ancestral chains were binding, like what chakra. A lot of the times ancestral stuff happens in the lower chakras. So for instance, maybe you see in the feet or in the root chakra, literal like chains clairvoyantly binding that area. And she was also seeing with clairvoyance the ancestor story playing out like a movie to help her understand why this chain, this trauma, where did it come from? What caused the trauma, because we need to know that so that we can heal it and move forward. And she could also like see and feel and hear and know what those ancestors were sharing, because they were sharing a lot. She was basically really working with the ancestors, but would not be able to work with those ancestors without those pathways of the clairs activated. Because how else would you know what they were saying or see them or feel or know? You know what I mean? So it was really important. So she would call in those ancestors to help set her client free, and then she would tune in those ways. And then they would help her know what words needed to be spoken, again, where to place her hands, how to break and remove the chains together, the ancestors stepping in and helping with that, releasing generations of this unexpressed emotion and trauma. And then the third student that I had came to me knowing that their archetype was a healer. They knew that they were a healer, like absolutely knew it. But they had tried some healing courses and nothing was really landing. Like, okay, I've done Reiki, I've done this, I've done that, but nothing feels quite like me and nothing feels quite right. Once we awakened the clairs again, and also taught this student how to communicate with higher dimensional beings through clean and ethical channeling, which is an absolute game changer. Then he was approached by the Arcturian Council of Light, and they told him that there was a form of healing that was not being taught yet on Earth that they wanted to bring through him. And of course, this was because he had many lifetimes with them as an Arcturian and carried the soul gift of this Arcturian healing methodology within his soul. And it just needed to be discovered and then activated. And they showed him how to do it. And it was very interesting. Like if a client is laying down in front of you, and you can do this like online through Zoom, and you can also do this in person, but imagine a client laying down in front of you, and then you are able to like pull up their human blueprint, their energetic blueprint, okay? Like a hologram above their body, so it's hovering there, and it has all the chakras, and it has all the energetic meridians that connect the chakras, and we've got this hologram up here, and then he would do the work in the hologram. Okay, this needs to be removed, this needs to be realigned, there's an upgrade waiting to be installed, whatever the work needed to be done. And then when that was done, push it back down, like back into the human, and the human like receives all of that and then has a space of integration, however long that might take for them to integrate everything that was just done. So just like really, really powerful stuff. And when we practiced that together, he experienced such an obvious resonance and a natural ability, because it was who he was. It's a part of him, right? That he began to cry and say that, and said that he remembered, like got very emotional and said, like, I remember this. Like, okay, this is it. I remember. And it feels like home to be doing this. So just so amazing and so powerful. So the beauty of soul gifts is that they are so unique, and they will have your business and your offers and services standing out from the crowd, far out, because they're so unique and nobody else can emulate that. But the sad thing about soul gifts is that no one else could ever bring it forward. And so if you are too afraid to come out of the spiritual closet, come out of the psychic closet, due to fear of judgment or due to trauma from witch wounds and all of that kind of thing, then the world has to go without that beautiful gift. So that's how important it is for us to do that inner work as well. All right, so soul gift activation. So obviously, my belief through doing this work is that the clairs are where it's at. Really learn to speak the language of the clairs. But there are other ways that you can activate your soul gifts. And I want to give you some of those as well. So you can activate your soul gifts through a matching potential frequency here on Earth. For instance, a Reiki course, like a Reiki healing course, could activate a divine healer. And then they could go on to create their own healing modalities, but that activated that archetype for them. A herbology course could activate a kitchen witch, someone that then goes on to create their own tinctures and potions and salves. And also, like, think about an experience that you might have with a haunting or a ghost that could activate a medium, obviously, right? Or it could activate somebody that, their soul gift is, one of them is to clear and cross souls over, clear like haunted spaces, clear dark energy and cross souls over into the light. you could absolutely be activated into that by having those experiences. And then something really simple, like imagine just reading a book like The Secret or a book on manifestation, and it activates the sovereign creator codes within you. And suddenly, like you're ready, you remember you're ready, and you want to teach manifestation, but probably in a way that's not being done here on Earth again, in a completely new way, which now becomes a best-selling book and a course and a podcast. Like the potential is unlimited. It's only limited by like your ability to get out of your own way and trust in yourself and in your path. And then don't forget the final one to activate your gifts is your own experiences, because everything that you've been through, again, divine orchestration, it's led you to this moment. And so there was a reason for everything that you've been through. I like to say, not one tear will fall without a reason for it all. Like the hard shit you've been through is prepared you to help people through that as well. Because you're like, a lot of the time your dream clients are past versions of yourself. So for instance, if you've been through addiction or something really hard like that, and you've found the way to get through that, you now hold those codes and those keys and can help someone through that as well, energetically and emotionally and strategically. Or maybe you dealt with religious trauma, really, that's a big one, and you broke free and you had your spiritual awakening. Well, you could then, through many ways, through your words, through your actions, through working with people one-on-one, through courses, master classes, whatever you chose, you could really help people to break free of their own prisons of that fear and that shame that those kinds of programs cause. But it's really important for you to remember you need to always go off the books of how things are supposed to be done. So if you take a course, or if you learn a modality, great. Let's use Reiki as an example. You learn Reiki and you've got these hand placements. Perfect. Do it like that during the training. But once you're off on your own, you need to follow your intuition and not do it exactly like that, because you're here to offer something new. We're the leaders of the new Earth paradigm, right? We're here to do things in a way that hasn't yet been done on Earth. And so it's important for you to understand that and then always follow your intuition. Um, in the moment that you're in, your intuition will trump any rules or guidelines that you've been given. Okay. And then the last thing about activation, you can also experience an inward activation, like a remembrance of your true self, past lives, soul gifts, through connecting with your soul. So getting an Akashic reading or a soul gifts reading, having a soul retrieval done, or just through meditation. So that is also all possible for you. So let's talk a little bit about the evolution. So soul gifts evolve over time. First of all, I can guarantee you that you have more than one. Okay, we all have more than one, but they come to light in a special sequence of divine timing and orchestration. One has to come before the other, and there's also a reason for that. And the best thing that you can do to help this along is to always follow your curiosity in your life, follow your joy and your passion. Okay, that's your soul nudges that we talked about earlier. Like follow your soul nudges and they will lead you to the right information, the right courses, the right energy, books, people. Kind of like how in this moment you're right here with me learning about all of this. Like, divine orchestration, baby, you're being called. You are being called right now in this moment. And I know that you feel it. You're being called into your mission. You're being called to learn about your gifts. It's time, right? Okay. And a gift once discovered, remember, once you discover your soul gift, it will reach its highest potential when you use it in service. Okay. When you use it with that energy and the intention of helping someone or something, use it in service. And the more that you use your gifts, the stronger that they get, the more layered they get. But it is very difficult for you to do this on your own behind closed doors. Okay. You can't just practice your soul gift on yourself and think you're going to get there. Unfortunately, it just doesn't seem to work like that. It does need to be put in service to someone else. So this is where you really need to step into your courage and your bravery to allow yourself to be seen. You need to come out of the spiritual closet, the psychic closet, and start either taking clients or start taking friends and family or practice people to get you started, right? It's so important to just start. If you just start, it's going to like escalate so quickly. But if you don't start, you'll always wonder, well, what was the potential of that, right? And again, my gifts blossomed in session, right? In service. That's where I found out what I was truly capable of. And it always surprised me. When you put your gifts in the spotlight, they will surprise you. They will blow your mind, and they will always grow faster in that service. Okay, so this is the last part, and I just wanted to give you 5 steps to your mission. Okay, so you can call this your outer purpose, your soul purpose, your earth mission, starseed mission. It's all the same thing, okay? But here's the 5 steps. Number 1, discover your soul gifts. That is the very first step. Number 2, master your gifts, okay? Number 3, offer your gifts in service. Number 4, build your empire. And number 5, continue to expand and stretch beyond your comfort zone so that you're always continuing to learn and to grow these gifts. You should always feel, I always say like in business, things should always feel like really exciting, like really, really joyful, but with a splash of fear, because that just means you are stretching but your comfort zone. You're not just staying in your comfort zone and things get stagnant. You're always kind of pushing yourself, which is a really good thing. Now, these 5 steps also happen to be the instructions to your highest timeline. You're welcome. And your highest self frequency, because your soul gifts contain that. They're encoded with your highest self frequency. They're that escalator to your highest timeline, because it's you using all that you are in divine service to the light. And when you do that, everything rushes in to support you. And also, just one last note, if you are an entrepreneur or plan to be one, a truly aligned spiritual business will have your soul gifts at the foundation, like at the foundation of all of your offer suite. That is powerful magnetization. So wherever you are in these 5 steps, if you're wanting to discover your soul gifts, I would absolutely love to help you with that. I have many things that I have available to do this: soul gift readings, Akashic readings. I also have a lot of like master classes, programs, and courses, and you can work with me one-on-one as well to master your gifts. I have some incredible, like my signature program is Psychic Light, where you master your gifts, but I'm also coming out with Channeler of Light for someone who's just interested in learning the clairs and channeling, but to that professional top level. So that's mastering your gifts. If you're wanting to offer your gifts in service, I have a lot of spiritual business mentorship that I offer people, all kinds of different packages working with me to build that up for you, to take you into that soul empire, okay? Not just running a business. You want a soul empire, trust me. Build your empire, which is the 4th step. I'd love to help you with that. I have group mentorship, personal mentorship, and then of course, continue to expand and stretch beyond your comfort zone. And that is also something that I teach. It's really important for you in your business to stretch beyond your comfort zone of your business. Get off your own platform, get interviewed, get into people's shows and podcasts and into their masterminds, and expand your audience and expand your reach so that you can be seen and found. So here's some questions to ask yourself. Do you have a soul gift waiting to be discovered? Yeah, I guarantee that you do. Is there a deeper level to the gifts that you maybe have already uncovered? Yeah, I guarantee you that there is. And are you allowing your intuition to lead your gifts and expand them? Follow those soul nudges, baby. So I really hope that you enjoyed this training. And if you're wanting to reach out to me to work with any one of those 5 steps of your mission, I am so here for you. Come find me on Instagram. It's at Starseed Academy with a little blue check. Pop into my DMs, okay? I'd love to chat with you in there about where you're at and what would be the best suited for you of how to move forward. But for now, I just want to say thank you so much. And I really hope that this lesson alone just brought you a lot of clarity. So before you go, please remember, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you, beautiful starseed. Have a great day. Bye.